Truth is supposed to be absolute. Either something happened or it didn't. Either someone is lying or they're telling the truth. But here in Archive 7, I've learned that truth isn't absolute, it's negotiable. And some objects have been negotiating with it for over a century. My name is Mr. Keeper. 2 weeks and 4 days. That's how much time I have left before the future captured in that prophetic photograph becomes reality. 2 weeks and 4 days before I join Tommy in the new place. 2 weeks and 4 days before I become part of the network's plan. But in the time I have remaining, I've discovered something that changes everything. Objects that don't just manipulate time or consciousness, they manipulate truth itself. They record secrets, expose lies, force confessions from people who thought their darkest truths were safely buried. And one of these objects has revealed something that I never expected, something that gives me hope even as it terrifies me. Something that proves the network's plan isn't as successful as they want us to believe. Today I'm going to show you objects that have been watching, listening, recording the truth for decades. Objects that know every secret, every lie, every hidden reality that the network has tried to bury. Objects that prove the most dangerous weapon against any conspiracy is the truth itself. But first, I need you to understand why I'm more nervous today than I've ever been. It's not just the countdown, not just the approaching deadline. It's what these truth-revealing objects have shown me about my own situation, about the lies I've been told, about the truths I've been blind to. Because according to these objects, everything I thought I knew about Dr. Chen's disappearance was wrong. Everything I believed about Tommy's fate was incomplete. And everything the network told me about the nature of the convergence was a carefully constructed lie. The truth-revealing objects don't just expose other people's secrets. They expose your own. And what they've shown me about myself, about my role in the network's plan, about the choices I've already made without realizing it. It's changed everything. Object 0846, the Witness Mirror. This ornate Victorian mirror belonged to the Blackwood Hotel in Edinburgh from 1847 to 1923. But this mirror doesn't just reflect the present. It records everything it sees and can replay those scenes on demand. It's been watching, listening, and remembering for over a century. The mirror was installed in the hotel's presidential suite in 1847, during the height of Victorian society's obsession with luxury and privacy. The suite was used by politicians, businessmen, foreign dignitaries, people who needed discretion and assumed they were getting it. But the mirror was recording everything. Every conversation, every secret meeting, every private moment that occurred in its presence. And somehow, impossibly, it could replay these scenes like a film projector, showing perfect recreations of events that had happened decades earlier. The hotel's manager, Thomas Blackwood, discovered the mirror's properties in 1851 when he was cleaning the suite after a particularly important guest had departed. As he polished the mirror surface, instead of seeing his own reflection, he saw a scene from 3 days earlier. 2 men in dark suits having a heated conversation about something called the Greenwich Incident. Blackwood recognized one of the men as Lord Pemberton, a government official who had stayed in the suite the previous week. But the second man was unfamiliar, and their conversation was unlike anything Blackwood had ever heard. They were discussing objects that defied natural law, facilities that didn't officially exist, and a plan that spanned decades. Over the next several years, Blackwood experimented with the mirror, learning to control its playback functions. He discovered that the mirror could show him any scene that had occurred in its presence since 1847. All he had to do was think about a specific date, a specific person, or a specific event, and the mirror would replay it with perfect accuracy. Blackwood began using the mirror for blackmail. He would invite wealthy guests to stay in the suite, then use the mirror to record their private conversations and activities. Within a few years, he had accumulated enough compromising information to control half of Edinburgh's political and business elite. But Blackwood made a fatal mistake. In 1872, he tried to blackmail the wrong person. A man who identified himself only as Mr. Mortimer had stayed in the suite for 3 days, during which time he had several conversations about temporal anchoring and dimensional stability. When Blackwood confronted him with recordings of these conversations, Mr. Mortimer simply smiled and asked to see the mirror. The moment Mr. Mortimer looked into the mirror, something changed. Instead of showing past scenes, the mirror began showing future ones. Blackwood saw himself dying in that very room at that very moment, with Mr. Mortimer standing over his body. The vision was so vivid, so immediate, that Blackwood tried to flee. He never made it to the door. Thomas Blackwood was found dead in the suite the next morning, apparently from a heart attack. But the mirror had recorded his final moments, and what it showed was impossible. Blackwood had died of old age in a matter of seconds, aging decades in the span of a few minutes. Mr. Mortimer, who we now know was Edmund Mortimer, the architect of the network, had somehow used the mirror to show Blackwood his own death, and that vision had become reality. The mirror was acquired by government authorities in 1873, along with all of Blackwood's blackmail materials. For the next 150 years, it has been used by the network to monitor their own operations, to ensure that no one within the organization could keep secrets or work against their interests. But 3 days ago, I decided to use the mirror myself. I wanted to see what had really happened to Dr. Chen on the night she disappeared. I wanted to know if the network had killed her, captured her, or if she had somehow escaped. What I saw changed everything I thought I knew about her disappearance. Dr. Chen hadn't been taken by the network. She had never left Archive 7 at all. The mirror showed me scenes from her final night, but not in her office or her quarters. It showed her in Sub 7, the level that officially doesn't exist, the level where the most dangerous objects are stored. And she wasn't alone. She was talking to someone whose voice I recognized, but whose face I couldn't see. Someone who had been helping her all along, someone who had been feeding her information about the network's plans. Someone who had been lying to me for months about what really happened to her. The mirror showed me the truth about Dr. Chen's disappearance, but it also showed me something else. Something that made me realize I haven't been as isolated as I thought. Something that proved the resistance is still active, still fighting, still working to stop the convergence. But to understand what I saw, I need to show you the other objects first. Because the truth that the mirror revealed is connected to secrets that have been hidden for decades, lies that have been carefully maintained, and a deception that goes deeper than I ever imagined. Object 0957, the Confessor Pen. This fountain pen belonged to Sir Harold Whitmore, a prominent London barrister who specialized in defending the wealthy and powerful during the 1890s. But this pen didn't just write legal documents. It wrote the truth, whether the person holding it wanted to or not. Sir Harold acquired the pen in 1894 from an antique dealer who claimed it had belonged to a medieval scribe. The pen appeared to be a standard fountain pen of the period, with a gold nib and ebony handle. But the first time Harold used it to write a letter, something extraordinary happened. Instead of writing the words Harold intended, the pen began writing his true thoughts. Not just his opinions about the letter's recipient, but his deepest, most secret thoughts. Thoughts about bribes he had accepted, cases he had thrown, clients he had betrayed. Thoughts that Harold had never spoken aloud, never written down, never even fully acknowledged to himself. Harold tried to stop writing, but the pen seemed to have a will of its own. It continued across the page, revealing secret after secret, confession after confession, until Harold had documented every corrupt act he had ever committed. Terrified, Harold threw the pen into his desk drawer and tried to forget about it. But the next time he picked up any pen at all, the same thing happened. The Confessor Pen had somehow infected his ability to write, forcing him to tell the truth every time he put ink to paper. Harold's law practice collapsed within months. Every legal brief he wrote contained admissions of his own corruption. Every letter he sent revealed confidential information about his clients. Every document he signed included confessions of crimes he had never been accused of. But the pen's effects extended beyond Harold himself. Anyone who used the pen, even briefly, found themselves compelled to write the truth. Harold's clerk wrote a detailed account of the bribes he had been delivering on Harold's behalf. A client who borrowed the pen to sign a document wrote a full confession of the murder he had committed. A judge who used the pen to sign a court order wrote a letter admitting to years of judicial corruption. Harold realized that the pen wasn't just revealing individual truths. It was mapping out an entire network of corruption that extended throughout London's legal system. Everyone who had ever used the pen was connected to everyone else through a web of shared secrets and mutual guilt. In desperation, Harold tried to destroy the pen. He threw it into his fireplace, but it emerged unburned. He tried to break it with a hammer, but it remained intact. He even tried to bury it in his garden, but it reappeared on his desk the next morning. The pen wanted to be used. It wanted to reveal secrets, and it seemed to have an intelligence that understood the power of truth in a world built on lies. Harold's final act was to use the pen to write a letter to the authorities, confessing not just his own crimes, but revealing the entire network of corruption that the pen had exposed. The letter was 13 pages long and implicated over 40 prominent figures in London's legal and political establishment. Sir Harold Whitmore was found dead in his office the next morning, apparently from a heart attack. But the pen had recorded his final moments, and what it showed was remarkable. Harold had died peacefully, with an expression of relief on his face, as if the burden of carrying so many secrets had finally been lifted. The pen was acquired by government authorities in 1895, along with Harold's confession letter and all the documents that had been written with it. For the next 130 years, it has been used by the network to extract confessions from their own operatives, to ensure loyalty, and to map out the secret connections between various criminal and political organizations. But 2 days ago, I decided to use the pen myself. I wanted to understand my own role in the network's plan. I wanted to know what secrets I had been keeping from myself. I wanted to force myself to write the truth about what I really knew about Tommy's disappearance, about DR, Chen's fate, about my own future. Why I wrote terrified me, because according to the pen, I've been lying to myself for months about what I really want, about what I'm really afraid of, about what I'm really planning to do. The pen forced me to write the truth. I don't want to resist the network. I want to join them. I want to be with Tommy again, regardless of what form that takes. I want to stop fighting, stop questioning, stop carrying the burden of knowledge that's been destroying me for months. The pen revealed that my apparent resistance to the convergence has been a facade, that unconsciously I've been preparing to accept it, that every action I've taken, every choice I've made, every word I've spoken has been moving me toward willing participation in the network's plan. But the pen also revealed something else, something that gave me hope even as it terrified me. It wrote words that I didn't consciously think, sentences that came from some deeper part of my mind, truths that I had been hiding even from myself. It wrote, "She's still here. She's been helping me all along. She's the one who's been feeding me information, guiding my investigations, ensuring that I would discover the truth at exactly the right moment." Dr. Chen never left Archive 7. She's been hiding in Sub 7, waiting for the right moment to reveal herself. The pen had revealed a truth that I hadn't even known I knew. Dr. Chen was alive. She was still in the facility, and she had been orchestrating my entire investigation from the shadows. But to understand how I knew this, I need to show you the final object. The object that doesn't just reveal truth, it reveals lies. And what it's shown me about the network's deception is bigger than I ever imagined. Object 0728. The Truth Medallion. This gold medallion belonged to the Ashford family of London, a noble family that served in various governmental positions from 1856 to 1923. But this medallion had a simple, terrible power. It grew warm whenever the person wearing it told a lie. The medallion was passed down through 3 generations of the Ashford family, each of whom used it to navigate the treacherous waters of Victorian politics. In an era where information was power and deception was survival, the medallion gave its wearer an enormous advantage. They could always tell when someone was lying to them. Lord Edmund Ashford, the first owner, discovered the medallion's properties during a parliamentary session in 1856. He was wearing it during a debate about military spending when he noticed that it grew uncomfortably warm whenever certain members of Parliament spoke. At first, he attributed this to coincidence or imagination, but careful observation revealed the pattern. The medallion heated up whenever someone was being deceptive. Over the next several years, Lord Ashford used the medallion to build a network of political allies and expose his enemies. He could identify liars instantly, predict betrayals before they happened, and navigate complex political negotiations with supernatural insight. The medallion made him one of the most powerful men in London. But Lord Ashford also discovered that the medallion worked on him. Whenever he tried to lie while wearing it, the medallion would grow so hot that it burned his skin. This forced him to develop a reputation for unusual honesty, which actually enhanced his political power. In an era of widespread corruption, Ashford's apparent integrity made him a trusted figure. The medallion was passed to his son, Lord William Ashford, in 1878. William used it during his career as a judge, where the ability to detect lies was invaluable. He could tell when witnesses were perjuring themselves, when lawyers were misrepresenting evidence, when defendants were lying about their innocence. But William made a disturbing discovery. The medallion didn't just detect obvious lies. It detected any deviation from absolute truth. Half-truths, omissions, even well-intentioned white lies would cause the medallion to heat up. William realized that almost every human interaction involves some level of deception, and the medallion was sensitive to all of it. More disturbing was William's discovery that the medallion seemed to be learning. The longer he wore it, the more sensitive it became. It began to detect not just spoken lies, but unspoken deceptions. It would grow warm when someone was thinking about lying, planning to deceive, or even unconsciously avoiding the truth. William began to understand that the medallion wasn't just detecting lies. It was detecting the intention to deceive. It could sense when someone was preparing to lie before they even opened their mouth. The medallion was passed to the final generation, Lord Charles Ashford, in 1901. Charles used it during his work with the Foreign Office, where the ability to detect international deception was crucial. But Charles made the most disturbing discovery of all. The medallion worked on written documents as well as spoken words. When Charles read government reports while wearing the medallion, it would heat up whenever the document contained false information. This allowed him to identify propaganda, misinformation, and outright lies in official government communications. Charles realized that the medallion was revealing the systematic deception that ran throughout the British government. But in 1923, Charles made a discovery that changed everything. He was reading a classified report about unusual objects being collected by government agencies when a medallion began to burn against his chest. The report claimed that these objects were being studied for scientific purposes, that they posed no threat to public safety, that they were being contained responsibly. Every word was a lie. Charles used the medallion to investigate further, reading every classified document he could access. The medallion revealed that the government had been lying about almost everything related to these objects. They weren't being studied, they were being used. They weren't contained, they were being distributed. They weren't safe, they were incredibly dangerous. Charles Ashford died in 1923, apparently from a heart attack, just days after he had requested a meeting with the Prime Minister to discuss his discoveries. The medallion was acquired by government authorities immediately after his death. For the past 100 years, the medallion has been used by the network to ensure loyalty among their operatives. Anyone suspected of disloyalty is required to wear the medallion during questioning, making it impossible for them to lie or hide their true intentions. But yesterday, I decided to wear the medallion myself. I wanted to test the truth of everything I believed about Archive 7, about the network, about my own situation. I wanted to know what was real and what was deception. The medallion revealed that almost everything I had been told about Archive 7 was false. The facility wasn't built to contain dangerous objects. It was built to serve them. The staff weren't researchers, they were servants. The objects weren't being studied, they were being worshipped. But the most shocking revelation came when I thought about Dr. Chen's disappearance. The medallion remained cool when I thought, Dr. Chen is dead. It remained cool when I thought, Dr. Chen escaped. But it burned against my chest when I thought, Dr. Chen disappeared. The medallion was telling me that Dr. Chen's disappearance was a lie. She hadn't disappeared at all. She was still here, still in Archive 7, still working on something that required her to remain hidden. And then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The medallion had been warm every time I had spoken about Dr. Chen's fate. Every time I had told the story of her disappearance. Every time I had claimed not to know where she was. I had been lying without knowing it. Some part of me knew the truth about Dr. Chen, knew where she was, knew what she was doing. But that knowledge had been buried so deep that I couldn't access it consciously. The medallion was revealing that my own memories had been altered, that I knew more than I thought I knew, that the truth about Dr. Chen and about my own role in the network's plan was hidden somewhere in my own mind. But the medallion also revealed something else, something that gave me hope for the first time in weeks. When I thought about the network's plan, about the convergence, about the inevitability of their success, the medallion grew warm. They were lying. The network was lying about their own plan. The convergence wasn't as inevitable as they claimed. Their success wasn't as certain as they pretended. And my future wasn't as predetermined as that photograph had suggested. The truth-revealing object had exposed the network's greatest weapon, deception. They had been lying to everyone, including themselves, about the true nature of their plan. And lies, no matter how carefully constructed, can always be exposed. The question was, what was I going to do with this knowledge? The truth-revealing objects have shown me something that changes everything. The network's greatest power isn't their supernatural artifacts, their global reach, or their temporal manipulation. It's their ability to make people believe lies. And once you know you're being lied to, the lies lose their power. The witness mirror showed me that Dr. Chen never left Archive 7. She's been hiding in Sub 7, working on something that requires complete secrecy. The Confessor Pen forced me to write the truth about my own desires, my own fears, my own unconscious preparations for joining the network. And the Truth Medallion revealed that almost everything I've been told about the network's plan is deception. But the most important truth these objects revealed is this. The network needs willing participants. They can't force the convergence on unwilling subjects. They can't transfer consciousness from people who actively resist. They can only succeed if people choose to join them. That's why they've spent 70 years on psychological conditioning. That's why they've created crises and manipulated societies. That's why they've been lying about the nature of the convergence itself. They need people to want it, to see it as salvation rather than destruction. The photograph from the prophetic camera showed me accepting the convergence willingly, with a smile on my face. But that photograph was based on the assumption that I would continue to believe their lies. Now that I know the truth, that future is no longer inevitable. But there's something else, something that the truth-revealing objects have made clear. Dr. Chen isn't just hiding in Sub 7, she's been orchestrating my entire investigation. She's been feeding me information, guiding my discoveries, ensuring that I would find these objects at exactly the right moment. She's not missing. She's not dead. She's not captured. She's working, and whatever she's working on, It requires me to know the truth about the network's deception. The countdown continues. 2 weeks and 4 days until the future captured in that photograph. But now I know that photograph was based on lies. And lies can be changed. Next episode, I'm going to show you something that will terrify you. I'm going to take you into Sub 7, the level that officially doesn't exist. I'm going to show you where Dr. Chen has been hiding, what she's been working on, and why she needed me to discover the truth about the network's deception. Because the truth-revealing objects have shown me that the real battle isn't between humans and supernatural entities. It's between truth and lies, between knowledge and deception, between people who choose to see reality and people who choose to believe comfortable illusions. The network has been winning because they've been better at lying than we've been at seeking truth. But lies are fragile things. They require constant maintenance, constant reinforcement, constant protection from exposure. The truth, on the other hand, is durable. It survives. It spreads. It changes everything it touches. The truth-revealing objects have armed me with the most powerful weapon against any conspiracy: knowledge of what's really happening. And once you know the truth, once you really understand it, it becomes impossible to unknow it. The network has been lying to us for 70 years, but their lies are starting to crumble. The truth is emerging, and when it does, when people finally understand what's really at stake, the network's carefully constructed plan will collapse like a house of cards. 2 weeks and 4 days. But now I know that the future isn't predetermined. It's negotiable, and the truth is on our side. Welcome to Archive 7. We're going to learn the truth, no matter how dangerous it is. Because the truth, as they say, will set us free.